Most people never hear this warning, though it is one of the most important truths of life. The majority will fail. Not because the world is against them, not because opportunity is absent, but because they drift. They wake up each day without direction, waiting for chance to hand them what only discipline can create. And so, little by little they move toward failure, not by a single great mistake, but by the quiet erosion of their purpose. Earl Nightingale saw this clearly. He reminded us that failure is not an accident, and neither is success. Both are the natural results of the thoughts we allow and the actions we repeat. Those who fail spend their lives reacting, waiting, and wishing. Those who succeed spend their lives deciding, acting, and building. One path leads to emptiness, the other to fulfillment. Now, you stand before the same choice. These words have opened the eyes of countless people before you, and they carry the same power today. If you allow them in, they will challenge you, confront you, and demand more from you. But they will also give you the rarest gift, the knowledge of how to avoid the fate of the many and step into the life of the few. So take a breath, clear your mind, for what you are about to hear is not just a lecture. It is Earl Nightingale's warning, a map to the life you want and a mirror to the life you must leave behind.
Most people fail in life not because they are doomed from the beginning, not because they lack talent or strength or desire, but because they have never truly understood one thing, that success is not an accident. It is not luck. It is not given to the few while withheld from the many. It is a deliberate creation of the mind, followed by consistent direction and effort. The failure of the majority is not rooted in their lack of dreams, but in their failure to define those dreams with clarity and pursue them with unshakable resolve. At the age of 25, a man stands at the starting line of his adult life, filled with hope, perhaps some ambition, and the belief that life will unfold naturally in his favor. But by the time he reaches 65, statistics tell us only 5 out of 100 will be financially independent. 1 will be rich. 4 will have managed to secure freedom. The remaining 95 will still be working, dependent, or broke. The tragedy lies not in the statistics, but in how quietly and unconsciously this drift into mediocrity takes place. You see, the difference between those who succeed and those who do not is not circumstance, it is intention. It is the ability to define a goal and hold to it, to think about that goal consistently, and to align every day's action toward its achievement. There is a strange paradox in human behavior. The very power we each possess, the power of thought, of decision, of self-direction, is often the one power we fail to use. People talk of fate, of bad breaks, of unfairness in life, but when you look closely, you'll find that most men and women simply never take control of their minds. They never sit down and ask the question, what do I want my life to be? What am I building? Who am I becoming? The failure, then, is not a thunderous collapse. What do I want my life to be? What am I building? Who am I becoming? The failure, then, is not a thunderous collapse. It is a slow forgetting, a slow turning away from the fire that once burned in the heart. Most people, if they are honest, have at some point in their lives dreamed of greatness, not necessarily fame or riches, but a life lived with direction, purpose, and self-respect. But they allowed that dream to fade because they did not protect it. They conformed, they copied, they took the path of least resistance, and the laws of life, being what they are, did not reward them for that. You see, nature does not reward the indifferent. It rewards the intentional, and the man who walks through life without a goal is like a ship without a rudder. He drifts, and drifting is the first step toward disaster. Why do people drift? Why do so many surrender the reins of their own existence? The answer is simple. They never realized they had the reins to begin with. No one ever told them the truth that their thoughts are building their life brick by brick, day by day. They never learned that they are the architects of their future, and that they are not merely reacting to life but creating it. The average man believes that things happen to him. He does not realize that he is happening to the world around him, that his inner world of thought and belief is shaping his external reality every single day. And because of this, he becomes a victim of circumstance rather than the creator of circumstance. The law is clear. We become what we think about. Not occasionally, not once a year, but every day, every hour, every minute. This is the law that separates the few from the many. And it is this law that, once understood, must be written not just on a piece of paper, but into the deepest fibers of your mind. Say it with me now. And write it in the comments. I become what I think about. I am the master of my destiny. There is a story told of a man who sat in front of his stove and said, "Give me heat, and then I'll add the wood." Of course, the stove never gave him heat because the universe does not work that way. We must put in before we can take out. We must sow before we reap. We must serve before we are rewarded. This is another law of life that most people never learn, or worse, they learn it but ignore it. They look for shortcuts. They seek rewards without effort, riches without service, comfort without contribution, and so they spend their lives frustrated, bitter, always wondering why the world has denied them what they believe they deserve. But the truth is, the world denies no one. It reflects back to us what we give to it. And most people, if they are truly honest, are giving very little. They are doing the minimum. They are just getting by. And life in return just gets by with them. If we want more from life, we must give more to life. If we want to rise above the crowd, we must outthink, outserve, and outgrow the crowd. But growth is uncomfortable. It demands effort, change, sacrifice. And this is where most people stop. They want the reward but not the price. They admire the successful, but they do not emulate their habits. They want the house on the hill but not the climb to reach it. And so they remain where they are, not because they must, but because they choose. Yes, it is a choice. Every man has a choice, whether he acknowledges it or not. Every day is a vote cast for either mediocrity or mastery, and most men, through habit and neglect, cast their votes for mediocrity again and again, not intentionally, but thoughtlessly. They choose comfort over growth, distraction over discipline, and then they wonder why life has passed them by. But the rules of life are firm, they are laws, and when we break them we do not escape punishment. We only delay the inevitable reckoning. Let me tell you what failure really is. Failure is not the absence of success, it is the absence of clarity. It is the absence of a worthy ideal. A man without a goal is already defeated. He may have energy. He may even be talented, but without direction all of it is scattered. Think of a laser. Its power comes not from its brightness, but from its focus. The same is true of a man. You can take all the energy in the world, and if it is not directed, it dissipates. But take a single thought, held clearly and constantly in the mind, and it becomes a force. That is the secret the 5% have discovered. They do not necessarily have more talent. They simply know where they are going, and because of that, life makes way for them. Opportunities appear. People are drawn to them. Doors open, not because they are lucky, but because they are deliberate. The world rewards the man who knows what he wants. It punishes the one who does not. And that brings us to this moment. Because the truth is, you are not listening to this by accident. Somewhere inside of you, the truth has been stirring. You know you were meant for more. You felt it in quiet moments, in the stillness of night, in the brief glimmers of inspiration that life occasionally gives you. That's not random. That's your true self calling to you. And the question is, will you answer? Will you make the decision that most never make? The decision to wake up, to take full control of your mind, and to define your life not by default, but by design. Because the moment you do, the moment you draw that line in the sand and say, no more drifting, no more waiting, I will become what I think about, you will have joined the 5%, and your life will begin to change. Not overnight, but certainly, quietly, day by day. As your mind clears, your path will appear. And you will find, often to your amazement, that life is not withholding anything from you. It has simply been waiting for you to claim it. You see, the real question is not whether success is possible. It is whether you are willing to pay the price. And that price begins in the mind. It begins with thought, with discipline, with intention. And once you've made the choice, everything else begins to fall into place. Your days take on new meaning. Your work becomes a mission. Your time becomes sacred. You begin to rise earlier, think deeper, and act bolder. Not because someone told you to, but because you've seen the truth. You've touched the power that lies dormant in every human being, the power to decide, the power to choose. And when you choose to think deliberately, to dream consistently, and to act relentlessly, you cannot fail. The world will resist you at first, but eventually it will yield. It always yields to those who know where they are going and why. So today I give you this challenge. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Write down your goal, not a vague wish, a clear, definite, emotionally charged goal. And write these words beside it. I become what I think about. I am the master of my destiny. Say them out loud, feel them, believe them, and then repeat them every morning and every night, because that is the beginning, that is the turning point, that is the decision that most people never make, and it is the reason most people fail. But you, if you've listened this far, are no longer most people. Now you know the truth, and the truth is powerful. Use it, Most people fail in life not because they were born into the wrong circumstances, but because they never stopped to examine their assumptions. They live according to rules they never wrote, guided by voices that were never truly their own. They adopt beliefs from childhood, from peers, from the culture around them, never questioning whether those beliefs serve them or sabotage them. One of the most dangerous of these beliefs is that life is something that happens to them rather than something they are shaping with every thought, every decision, and every habit. This passive mindset is the silent killer of dreams. It convinces a man that he is unlucky, when in truth he is simply undisciplined in his thinking. It whispers that others were given more talent when what those others were really given was focus. The passive man waits. He waits for the right time, the perfect moment, the sign, the external approval. But life does not reward the one who waits. It rewards the one who moves, the one who acts, the one who decides. If there is one thing I have learned above all else, it is this: thought precedes action, and sustained thought precedes sustained success. You must think deeply and consistently about who you want to be. Most people never do, and so they become what the world makes of them, not what they chose to become. But how do you know if you're living reactively? How do you know if you've fallen into the pattern of the 95%? The signs are subtle, but unmistakable. You wake up with no clear direction. You work without a defined purpose. You fill your time, but not your soul. You compare yourself constantly to others, measuring your worth by things instead of values. You feel a quiet frustration, a background hum of dissatisfaction that no amount of entertainment, achievement, or distraction can silence. That is the voice of your potential, quietly asking why you've been ignoring it. The reactive man is constantly putting out fires. He responds to emails, to deadlines, to other people's problems. But rarely does he sit in silence and ask the most important question of all: am I living in alignment with my highest vision for myself? The truth is, the mind is like a garden. If you do not plant the seeds of intention, weeds of distraction and confusion will grow automatically. Most people are not failing because they are lazy. They are failing because they have allowed weeds to overrun their garden. And weeds do not need permission to grow. They thrive in the absence of discipline. The mind, you see, is not your enemy, but it is not your servant either, unless you train it to be. Left untrained, it becomes a mirror of the noise around you. It adopts the fears of others, the doubts of your family, the limitations of your environment. But trained with vision, with repetition, with clarity, it becomes a forge, a furnace, a generator of creative energy so powerful it can reshape your entire world. This is not poetry. This is law. The law that says whatever you hold in your mind on a consistent basis is exactly what you will experience in your life. Now look around at your life. Look carefully. Everything in it is a reflection of your dominant thoughts. Your finances, your health, your relationships, your career, your sense of purpose. These are not accidents. They are mirrors. And most people don't like what they see in the mirror, so they try to change the mirror. But you cannot fix the reflection without fixing the source. That source is your mind. And if you want to change your life, you must first take full responsibility for what you think and what you habitually allow to stay in your thoughts. Now let me give you another law. It is as certain and unchanging as gravity. Here it is. The quality of your life will never exceed the quality of your thinking. Say it. Feel it. Write it in the comments. This law does not care about your background, your race, your education, or your setbacks. It responds only to what you think, believe, and do over time. The man who thinks clearly, who feeds his mind with quality ideas, and who eliminates the mental garbage of complaint and blame, this man will rise. Always, no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult the climb, because the mind, once directed properly, becomes a compass, and a man with a compass does not get lost. He may wander, but he does not drift. He may be delayed, but he is not derailed. Most people fail because they never build this compass. They wake up and check their phones instead of checking in with their purpose. They absorb opinions instead of organizing their own values. They react to the world instead of shaping it. And then they wonder why their lives feel like a blur of activity without meaning. If you want to win in life, you must protect your mind like a fortress. You must guard it from cheap inputs, from gossip, from negativity, from endless distraction. What you allow in will grow. Garbage in, garbage out. Greatness in, greatness out. This is why it is so important to feed your mind deliberately. Read quality books. Listen to voices of truth, not noise. Write your goals every day. Visualize your ideal future. Speak affirmations that remind you of your power. This is not fantasy. This is training. And just as the body grows stronger with repetition, so does the mind. Most people think of training as something physical, but the most important training you will ever do is mental. A trained mind does not panic. It does not chase trends. It does not collapse under pressure. It holds steady. It returns to center. It moves with purpose. And over time it becomes an unstoppable force, not because it is lucky, but because it is aligned. You must also understand this. Clarity is power. And most people fail because they live in a fog. They have not taken the time to define what they truly want. They speak in vague terms. I want to be happy. I want more money. I want to be successful. But life does not respond to vagueness. It responds to specifics. A clear goal, clearly written, held clearly in the mind every single day. This is the beginning of power. And power is not a mysterious thing reserved for the elite. It is a natural byproduct of clarity, discipline, and consistency. Do you want to rise above the 95%? Then write your goal, say it aloud, visualize it daily, and act toward it without apology. Do not ask for permission. Do not wait for motivation. Move, start where you are, use what you have, and build as you go. The universe responds to action. Most people spend their lives planning to act, but those who win are those who act while others plan. They build while others wait. They walk while others wonder. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like in 1 year if you simply committed to thinking on purpose? Not reacting, not worrying, not complaining, but thinking deliberately, positively, constructively every single day. Can you imagine the change, the peace, the power? Most people spend years trying to change their external circumstances, never realizing that everything begins in the internal world. Every breakthrough begins with a new thought. Every transformation begins with a new belief. And beliefs are nothing more than thoughts repeated long enough to become accepted. So choose your thoughts as carefully as a sculptor chooses his tools. And when you find the ones that build, the ones that lift, the ones that fuel you, repeat them again and again until they become you. We are not victims. We are not statistics. We are not bound by what has been unless we decide to be. And that decision happens in the mind, every morning, every hour, every moment. Most people fail because they never realize how powerful they truly are. But you are not most people. You now know the truth. The truth that success is not an outcome, it is a mindset. It is a way of thinking, of seeing, of believing long before the results appear. So train your mind. Feed it with purpose. Guard it with intention, and use it to build the life that only you can build. Because the only real failure is the failure to think. And that, my friend, is something entirely within your control. If you truly wish to rise above the ordinary, you must make a decision that very few are willing to make, the decision to take full responsibility for your life. This, more than any other choice, separates those who succeed from those who fail. Most people will never make this decision because it requires them to relinquish their excuses. It means they can no longer point fingers at their upbringing, their environment, or their circumstances. It means that from this moment forward, they must own every result they experience. And while that sounds intimidating, it is actually the key to freedom, for when you accept that you are responsible for your life, you also realize that you are no longer at the mercy of anyone or anything else. You are free. You are in control. You hold the pen, and the rest of your life is the blank page. Most people never realize this. They spend their time waiting for someone to fix their problems, waiting for the right time, waiting for motivation, waiting for permission. But success does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who decide. And the first decision, the most important decision, is this. I am responsible. I am in control. I create my life through my thoughts and actions. That is the mindset of the 5%. That is the declaration that changes everything. Now let us speak plainly about another reason most people fail. They confuse movement with progress. They stay busy. They work long hours. They cross items off lists. But when the day is done, they have moved in circles. They have run hard on the treadmill of mediocrity but gone nowhere. Why? Because they lacked direction. They lacked a central aim, a compass. And no matter how hard you run, if you're running in the wrong direction, you only get further from where you were meant to be. This is why I say never confuse activity with achievement. Most people do. They believe that effort alone is enough, but effort without vision is wasted. Sweat does not equal success, unless it is pointed at a target. The archer draws the bow not to release energy randomly, but to strike the mark. You must become that archer. You must define your mark with clarity. Then, and only then, will your efforts have meaning. Without a clear goal, your work becomes noise. With a goal, every action becomes music. This is why most people fail. They work, but they don't aim. They hustle, but they don't think. They burn energy, but they do not build. The world is filled with busy people, but only a few are builders. Be one of them. Another great cause of failure is the refusal to endure temporary discomfort. Success in any area of life demands that we pass through seasons of discomfort, uncertainty, and sacrifice. But most people run from these seasons. They seek ease. They want the results, but not the process. They want the rewards, but not the refinement. They want to be great, but they do not want to grow. And growth, by its nature, is uncomfortable. It asks more of you. It stretches your beliefs. It breaks your patterns. It demands that you leave behind who you were in order to become who you must be. And most people, when faced with that demand, retreat. They return to the familiar. They justify it with logic, with timing, with convenience. But deep down they know the truth. They have chosen comfort over greatness. And comfort, while pleasant in the short term, is a silent thief. It steals potential. It kills momentum. It disguises itself as peace, but it is a slow death of the soul. The man who succeeds is not the one who avoids discomfort. He is the one who embraces it, who welcomes it as the price of admission to a life of significance. This is a law of life. Discomfort is the gateway to growth. I walk through it with courage. Write that down, say it aloud, leave it in the comments. Because once you understand this truth, you will stop shrinking back and start stepping forward. Let us now consider the power of habits. Most people fail not because of one catastrophic decision, but because of 100 tiny compromises made every day. It is the small things, the neglected morning routine, the distracted hour, the missed opportunity to plan, that slowly erode the foundation of success. Habits are not neutral. They are either building you or breaking you. They are the invisible architecture of your future. And here is the tragedy. Most people do not choose their habits. They inherit them. They imitate them. They drift into them. But habits are choices, and they can be rechosen. The man who examines his habits, who refines them, who disciplines himself to practice excellence daily, this man cannot fail. He may struggle, he may fall, but he will rise, because his habits will catch him. They will sustain him. They will carry him forward when motivation fades and emotion wavers. Most people wait for motivation to act, but the successful act first and allow discipline to generate momentum. It is not a matter of personality. It is a matter of principle. A man becomes what he repeatedly does. And so I ask you, what are you doing every day without fail? What rituals are shaping your destiny? What patterns are writing your future in silence? You see, the secret is not hidden. It is not buried in a book no one can find, or locked in the vault of some elite club. It is in plain sight. It has been spoken for centuries. It has been written in scripture, echoed by philosophers, confirmed by science. And yet it remains a mystery to the many. Why? Because it is simple. And the human mind has a tendency to dismiss the simple in search of the complicated. But the simple truths are the most powerful. And here is one of them. What you focus on expands. That is the law. If you focus on problems, your life will be filled with problems. If you focus on growth, your life will expand. If you focus on fear, you will be paralyzed. If you focus on faith, you will move mountains. This is not superstition. It is psychology. It is the way the human brain is designed. It filters reality based on what you give attention to. And most people fail because they give their attention to what they fear, what they lack, what they cannot control. The winners? They focus on the vision. They feed the fire. They speak life. And over time they rise, not because life was easier for them, but because they chose what to focus on. This brings us to the next great reason for failure, the absence of daily review. Most people live by default. They repeat the same day over and over again and call it a life. But success demands reflection. It demands that we look in the mirror, not occasionally, but daily. The man who reviews his progress, who tracks his habits, who reflects on his actions, becomes unstoppable, because each day he is getting feedback, he is learning, he is adjusting, he is improving. But the man who never looks back never knows where he's going. He flies blind, he repeats mistakes, he drifts, and soon he wonders why he has not arrived. The pilot reviews the instruments constantly. The surgeon checks the charts. The builder measures twice before cutting once. Why should it be any different with your life? Make reflection a part of your routine. Ask yourself every night, what did I do well? What can I improve? What am I building? These questions will elevate you. They will keep you awake. They will keep you alive. For the unexamined life is not only unwise, it is unsuccessful. So, what does this all mean for you? It means that success is not for the chosen few, it is for the disciplined few. It is for those who take control of their thoughts, their focus, their habits, and their review. It is for those who are willing to do the deep work, the quiet work, the inner work. That is where the real transformation happens. Not in the applause, not in the spotlight, but in the early morning, in the late night, in the unseen hours when you choose to become more than you were yesterday. That is the battle most people never fight, and that is why most people fail. But not you. Not anymore. You now see the game. You now know the laws, and knowledge, when acted upon, becomes power. So act. Think with purpose. Move with clarity. Build with consistency. And the life you once dreamed of will no longer be a dream. It will be your reality. Now that we've uncovered the foundational laws that govern failure, let us go deeper into the silent killers of progress.